Hey, what's up? So in the last video, we got the graph down, the graph of a square root function. And then, of course, we had our parent function, and then I adjust the parent function and all that. Now, what I'm going to teach you today is to look at the graph and identify the domain and range, okay? So somewhere, it doesn't really matter where, I'm going to write it up here so you can see it in the video. Domain, D-O-M-A-I-N, and range, R-A-N-G-E. Okay, so domain is always related to the x coordinate, and what range is related to the y coordinate. And that's why I wanted you to make at the first point, like where you start. Of course, you shouldn't have an arrow on that end. That's x, that's y. X is 0, y is 1. So we're going to put 0 and 1. Now we need to put greater than or less than signs, and here's how we decide which one to put, okay? And I know this is going to be kind of weird because you think of the x as going side to side, but to find your domain, you actually make here, I'll get a markers to kind of illustrate it, different than blue because I'm writing in blue. I'll get an orange. I'll get a yellow, hopefully you can see it, okay? So, I have to get the cap off, sorry. Okay, so to find the domain, what you're going to do is make a straight vertical line this way through that point, okay? It's got to be straight. So that's me just making just make it dashed. It's an imaginary line. Now, are all points that we made to the right or to the left of that line? They're all to the right, okay? So if they're all to the right, we use the greater than or equal to symbol, okay? So they all are to the right. Had they been all on this side, I would put a less than or equal to. Now the range, we got y and 1, okay? Now to find our range, okay, you're going to make that imaginary dashed line horizontally through that beginning point, because that's like your cutoff point. Okay, now here's my question. All the points that we made, are they above that line or are they all below that line? They're all above it. So if they're all above it, what we're going to do is a greater than or equal there. Had they been all below it, I would make a less than or equal. Okay, and that's your domain and range of that particular function right there. Okay, my next problem, domain and range. You don't really have to make many calculations here, okay? Remember, domain's your x, range is your y. Okay, so we have 0, negative 2. Remember, that's why I had you label that yesterday. So you got 0 is the x and negative 2 is the y. Now we got to decide what inequalities we need to use. Okay, so again, the domain, first off, make a vertical line through this point, okay, this point right here. Are all points to the right or to the left of that point? They're all to the right. Right, when we're talking about x, right is synonymous with, it means greater than or equal to, okay? Because your x coordinates start at 0 and then they just get greater than 0, the x way, okay? And then negative 2. Now, to discover my range, what symbol I need to use for my range, I make a horizontal path through that, okay? Are all the points above or below? All the points are above, so I do greater than or equal to, okay? And that's how you identify a domain and a range off of a function that we graphed. Okay, a little bit different here, okay? I'll put them right here. Domain, range. So domain is related to the x, the range is related to the y. So again, you got x, y. So 3 is with our x and 0 is with our y. But the way I determine the symbols is the same way. I mean, there's the opening point. I make a straight vertical line through that point. So are all my points to the right or to the left? They're all to the right, so once again, it's greater than or equal to. In the meantime, now I go to that point and make a straight horizontal line, okay? Are all the points above that line or below it? They're either on the line or they're above it, okay? So above, greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and that's pretty much what I kind of wanted you to do today, domain and range. It's not a lot of work, but it can be hard to kind of see where you're going. So X, Y, so I wanted to clarify that rather than have you do it all yesterday. Okay, so X is -6 and Y is 0. Okay. So, right there's my point. So I make a vertical line at that point. All the points go to the right, so again it's a greater than or equal to. And then I make my horizontal line. All the points, every point's above the line, okay? There are no points that go below it, so only above it, so it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, let's take a look at our next one. Domain, range, okay? Domain is X, range is Y. Now here's our point. Remember I told you to label that, -2, -3. So X is -2, Y is -3. Okay, so first to determine the symbol, I know you see X, you think it's a cross, but you actually to determine your domain, you make a vertical line, and everything's to the right through that point, okay? Now I put my pin thing here, and I make a horizontal line through the point, and everything is above that, so that's going to be greater than or equal to. Okay, and there we go. Okay, -4, 3 was the starting point. So domain, range, X, Y, okay? So -4 is my X and 3 is my Y. So remember, every point is to the right, so everything on this line has an X of greater than or equal to -4. It's like you start at -4, then you just go this way, which is greater than. Okay, now my Y, make a horizontal line. Everything there is above that line, so once again it's greater than or equal to. Okay, now the back side, we're going to get kind of a change, at least on this one here. So again, you can even put it on the graph if you want. Just find somewhere where you have room. That's all I need, okay? So domain is X, range is Y. So 0 is my X and 2 is my Y. Now I got to figure out my symbols. Okay, everything is to the right, so that's greater than or equal to. And everything's above that imaginary thing I just made, so that's greater than or equal to. Okay. All right, this one's going to be a little bit of a change. You'll see why here in a minute. Domain, range. Okay. X, Y. So here's -3, -1. So -3, -1. Same idea. Whoa, okay, just make it that way, okay. Every point is to the right, okay. Every point is to the right. It's to the right, left. So every point I have is to the right. So that once again is greater than or equal to. But now you're going to notice when I make the horizontal line, is every point above or is it below? It's all below, okay? The points the graph is all below it, so it's less than or equal to -1, okay? All right, so basically the domain will always be a greater than, but there is chances where the range can be a less than. If I make that little line across and it's below it, then I'm using a less than, okay? And so forth.